trying to answer what inspires Cannibal is kind of a difficult question because there's things that inspire Cannibal from a lot of different points. And one of those things might be storytelling, that just something that I've read really inspires it for that side of things, but not for the artwork. And so when I try to talk about what inspires it, I think there's a lot of value in trying to talk about what part it inspires. For example, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is something that I really enjoy, and I've talked about that before, and JoJo poses are an obvious big thing about that. And while I'm not trying to make my own JoJo poses, one thing that it did teach me is that gesture is really important, and showing off your characters and making them look cool when it's their small moment, their panel to shine is really important. So I try to do that here. But other things that inspire Cannibal might be things like Dorohedoro, which is a huge inspiration for me because of the world that they live in, the style that it's just kind of this grimy place with all kinds of weird things that you might not totally understand. And I love that. That's one of the biggest inspirations for me. But in terms of story, I mean, I just love even just some of the books that I've read. I read this book by Mark Z. Danielewski, and it's just a very short book. I believe it's called The 100-Year Sword. And just the style of how that story was told, I love it. And I think about small little arcs in that way. And there's not really anything I can point to that is completed and out there that I can say is directly inspired by that. But what I have planned for Cannibal, it's pretty obvious that that is the inspiration for what you see here. There are also certain panels that are inspired by things like One Piece. I'm trying to get caught up on One Piece because it's not something I've watched really over the years. And so there are certain panels I think that's really cool. I can do a little homage to that in this part of the story. And I'm intentional about that because although it looks very One Piece in that panel, my style isn't very One Piece. So when that does happen, you do notice it. And I think it's important to pull from a lot of different inspirations.